Hi, my name is Aya. You're watching Aya Reads, and I'm here to talk about my ridiculously large end of the year TBR. So, for somebody who is currently in a reading slump, this is way too many books that I want to read by the end of the year. I have 30 books to talk about. They are split into categories, and I'm going to explain each category when I get to it. Also, I am dog sitting right now, and he is so sweet. So if you hear like background noise, that's gonna be him. Let me actually, I'm gonna film a little bit on my phone so you can see him too. Dante, hi, hey baby. He's very sweet. Anyway, so if you hear some background noise, he sometimes likes to come up behind this couch, so maybe you'll see his face actually pop up, but we'll see. Let's get started. I'm not gonna tell you a whole lot about all these books because, like I said, I have 30 books to talk about, so let's get started. The first category are 2024 releases that I have not read yet. Basically, most of them are new releases that came out while I was in my reading slump, or they are new releases that I think are big contenders to be in the Goodreads Choice Awards in the romance category, because I'm gonna be filming that video too. So yeah, some of them I have physical copies of, but most of them I don't. So I have 10 books that are 2024 releases that I have not read yet. The first one, and the one that I still cannot believe that I have not read yet, is Play Along by Liz Ford. This is the fourth book in her Windy City series, and I actually started it. I think I read chapter 1, or at least I read the prologue, but I knew already that I was probably not going to be enjoying it too much and that the reading slump was going to be ruining it for me, and I definitely didn't want to do that for this book. So I put it down, but obviously I really want to read it. I do think it's a big contender for the Goodreads Choice Award, so either way I'm going to be reading it. I think since I also own this book on ebook, I'm going to be on vacation next week. So I think I'm going to be hopefully reading this one on vacation. That would be amazing. Another new release that I am very sad that I have not read yet is Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver. So this is the second book in her Wild Love series, I think. Let me see. In the Rose Hill series, and I read Wild Love when it came out, and I really, really loved it. And obviously, if I was not in a reading slump, I would have already read Wild Eyes. But at this moment, I don't even own it. I don't even own it on ebook, and definitely not physically. So yeah, like I said, in any other universe, I would have already read it. I would have probably already filmed a new releases video for it, but that is not the reality I live in. But I do definitely want to read it before the end of the year. Next is The Paradise Problem by Christina Lauren. I do have to say I don't love this cover at all. I prefer the US cover, I think. But this one, okay, so the plan was to read Goodreads hit books so far or something. So that's basically the most popular books for the first half of the year. And I didn't make that video because, like I said, the reading slump hit. But I do think this is a big contender for the Goodreads Choice Award. So I don't think I'm going to be reading it before then, but the plan is to definitely read it when it inevitably shows up in the Goodreads Choice Awards. Hey, baby. Moving on. The Rule Book by Sarah Adams. Once again, I do think it's a big contender for the Goodreads Choice Awards. Oh, he heard something, so now he has to investigate. Dante, it's okay. Anyway, so once again, this was in the Goodreads hit book so far, and I had not read it for that. This was actually the next book I was going to be reading, because look, there's already a bookmark in here. So I think I read until page 6. Sorry, he's distracting me. Let's move on. But obviously, I didn't continue on, but I do think this is going to show up in the Goodreads Choice Award, so that is why it's on this list. Daydream by Hannah Grace. Once again, a book I would have already read in a different situation, but I have not read it yet. This book came out in September, I believe. I really want to read it. And since the second book of the series made it pretty high in the Goodreads Choice Awards, I, without a shadow of a doubt, think this will definitely show up. So if I don't read it before November, I will definitely read it in my Goodreads Choice vlog. If You Want Me by Helena Hunting. This one came out in July. And I read If You Hate Me the beginning of the year, and I really, really loved it. So I was planning on continuing on with this series. And since the third book, I believe, comes out at the end of the year, I definitely do want to read If You Want Me before the third book comes out, because I like Helena's writing style. I like this series so far, so I do want to keep up with it. Same goes for The Hunted Heir by Holly Renee. So I read The Veiled Kingdom in the beginning of the year, and I also vlogged it, by the way. If I have done a vlog for any of the books I'm mentioning, I'll leave that linked for you. Yeah, like I said, I really liked The Veiled Kingdom, although I do have to say, The Hunted Heir has been getting lower reviews, so maybe I'll just wait until the third book comes out. We'll see. But yeah, not a lot of people have been loving it, because The Veiled Kingdom got almost a 3.9 rating, whereas The Hunted Heir has a 3.5 rating. But since I did really enjoy The Veiled Kingdom, I do want to continue on with this series. The Wraith King by Juliet Cross. Mainly I want to read it because of this beautiful, beautiful cover. I just want to own this book. I think it is such a gorgeous cover. Yeah, this one came out in September. I read and loved the Say series by her, and this is the next book that she has published. So I do want to read this book. And once again, if it wasn't for my reading slump, I would have already read it. So yeah, I definitely want to read this book by the end of the year. Also, since the beginning of next year, she's releasing her first book in the spin-off for the Say Spell, so I do want to keep up with her new releases. A Novel Love Story by Ashley Poston. Once again, I think this has a very high chance of ending up in the Goodreads Choice Awards, so I do think I will be reading it for that. I do have to say, The 7-Year Slip was not my favorite, and this has been getting lower reviews, so I don't have the highest hopes for this one. I guess we'll see. And last but most certainly not least is Somewhere Beyond the Sea by TJ Klune. So I do have to say, for this one, since I read The House in the Cerulean Sea so long ago, my plan is to definitely reread The House in the Cerulean Sea before getting to Somewhere Beyond the Sea. The plan was actually to reread House in the Cerulean Sea in August, but obviously I was smack dab in the middle of my reading slump by then. So I think towards the end of the year, I'm going to be rereading House in the Cerulean Sea and then finally reading Somewhere Beyond the Sea. I love this book. TJ Klune is one of my favorite authors, so yeah, it's a shame that I have not read this book yet. Moving on to the next category, which is books that have been in previous TBRs. So I have 8 books to talk about, starting with Welcome to the Dark Side by Jonna Darling. This was actually in my January TBR. The plan was to actually read this for my first vlog of the year, and the main reason I want to read this book is because, for those of you who don't know, I have this giant recommendations list, and basically every book, I have a video that I made for that, but basically anytime somebody recommends me a book, it gets added to the recommendations list, and anytime somebody else or that same person recommends that book again, it gets a spot higher on the list. And basically the book or series that has been recommended the most out of all the books that I've not read yet is the Fallen Men series. So obviously Welcome to the Dark Side, and I want to read Welcome to the Dark Side and not Lessons in Corruption first, because most people really love the second book. I had a goal for this year that I don't think I will accomplish, but at the very least, I want to read the book or series that has been recommended the most. So yeah, hopefully I can finally read this book before the end of the year. Cold Hearted Rake by Lisa Kleypas. So my plan was to read this series this year because I read the Wallflowers and the Hathaways, and obviously the next series is going to be the Ravenels, and I do really want to slowly but surely read Lisa's backlist, but for sure my plan was to read this series, and I have not done so yet, so hopefully I can do so by the end of the year, at least start it. The Picture of Dorian Gray. So this was in my 2024 books I really wanted to read, and also in my fall TBR. This is not a long classic, and I do want to read this fairly soon. The plan is to listen to the audiobook while reading it, because I know Audible has done audiobooks by like famous actors for famous classics. So I do believe The Picture of Dorian Gray has such an audiobook. Yeah, I just think I'm gonna love this, and I do think the end of the year is the perfect time to read this gothic novel. Next is a book I'm sure you are all sick of hearing about, because I am sick of talking about it, and it's The Rivalry by Nikki Sloan. This book has been mentioned a lot of times on my channel because I do really want to read it, because I have such high hopes for this book. I do think it's going to be a 5-star book. It might actually be a favorite of the year, and I have not read it yet. I want to remedy that. So hopefully putting it on this list will finally give me the urge to read it. It's only a standalone, so it doesn't even start a new series for me. I have read and loved other books by Nikki Sloan, so I should just finally read it. I actually should read it this month, but we'll see if that's gonna happen. Dark Notes by Pam Godwin. I actually have only read one Pam Godwin, and it was Sea of Ruin, but that book was one of my favorite books I read in the year that I read it in, and I should really continue on with her backlist, and Dark Notes was the next book that was really intriguing for me. I actually bought it this year, so the goal was to finally read it this year. I obviously haven't yet, so hopefully I can in the near future. This is like a student teacher book, like music teacher. So, and it does have BDSM, and I believe it has BDSM as healing, which say less. I love that. This is How You Lose the Time War by, it's 2 authors. Let me see. By Amal El Mohtar and Max Gladstone. This, for some reason, I just have a feeling I'm gonna love. It's very short. Every time somebody talks about it, I just have this gut feeling that this is gonna be like one of my favorite books of all time. And I believe this was in another seasonal TBR. And I cannot, like I said, I cannot really tell you why. The premise sounds beautiful. I have read a book similar to it that I also really loved. Basically, it's about these 2 people on they are spies, but they are rivaling spies, and they send letters back and forth and in this like time war thing. And I don't know, it sounds weird but very interesting, and it's very short, so hopefully I can get around to it this year. Another book that I talked about endlessly is The Wall of the Winnipeg and Me. Basically, I really want to read Mariana Zapata this year. I've been hearing so many good things about her books. There are a couple that I really want to read, for sure. The Wall of Winnipeg and Me, Cool Tea, and From Lukov with Love. And actually, All Roads Lead Here. Those 4 are very high up on my books I really want to read. But I don't know, for some reason, The Wall of Winnipeg and Me, since it's Marriage of Convenience, has been intriguing me the most. The problem with her books is that they're very, very long and very, very slow burn. And I also believe they are not spicy. So those are all, I'm sure I can love it, obviously, but those are things that are preventing me from easily picking it up. So we'll see if I get around to it. And last but most certainly not least is A Dead Romantics. Once again, I've been meaning to read this book since, not even last year, the year before, and I have not, it came out in 2022. I've been wanting to read this book ever since then. I never got around to it. And I do have to say, since I didn't love the 7 Year Slip so much, it kind of kept me from, diving into The Dead Romantics. But since it's fall now, I do believe that now is the perfect time to read it. Okay, so the next category are series that I still need to finish. So obviously I have a bunch of series that I still need to finish, but these are definitely a high priority for me. I think I can be very satisfied with myself if by the end of the year I manage to get through most of these. The first one is actually mainly because the sequel is coming out in November, and it's The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King by Carissa Broadbent. So I read The Serpent and the Wings of Night in the beginning of the year, and I really liked it, but it was not my favorite book I read, but I was intrigued enough to continue on. So basically, I want to read this book and also the novella Six Scorched Roses, and I want to do that before The Songbird and the Heart of Stone comes out, which is the 3rd book. So this is definitely a high priority for me. I really want to read it in October, and we'll see if that is going to happen. I want to be caught up on the Lore Olympus series, so I think I read the first 4. Let me see. No, I read the first 5. And obviously I enjoyed this graphic novel series. I enjoy my time with it. But the 6th one came out in June, I think? No, in May. And I have not read it yet. So that is definitely my goal. I want to be caught up on this series before next year. So it's obviously not the end of the world if I'm not, but I really want to because this does bring me joy. Same goes for Spy Family. So this is my favorite manga series. I love this series so much, but I'm behind. I haven't picked up the last 2 volumes yet, which are volume 11 and 12. So I need to remedy that. A part of me wants to reread the first 10 volumes. I probably shouldn't. And a part of me also wants to start the anime. So we'll see. But for sure, I want to be caught up on this series by the end of the year. And obviously I'm talking about the English volumes because obviously I don't read Japanese. I don't know which volumes they are for the Japanese editions, but anyway, I want to read the 11th and 12th volume for Spy Family. I want to read the first and second book in the Dreamland Billionaire series by Lauren Asher. So I read the third book for the Goodreads Choice Awards last year, and the plan was to finish this series this year. I have not done so yet. And since I have a strong feeling that Lauren Asher will show up in this year's Goodreads Choice Awards, which with obviously her new series, I don't want to have two open series for an author if I can help it. So I do want to finish this. It's only 2 books. I know they're pretty long, but I definitely think I can tackle this series and finish it by the end of the year. And these, I'm sure a lot of you already know what this is about, but it's about this Walt Disney type figure who, when he passes away, he leaves tasks in his will for his grandsons to accomplish so that they can inherit his money. So yeah, I need to finish it. Same goes for the off-campus series. So I'm making good progress because I actually read the 3rd book this month. So the goal is to read the 4th book and the epilogue short stories, I guess. I am liking this series. The 1st book was one of my favorite books I read last year. And the 2nd I liked. The 3rd was not really my favorite. So the 4th book is going to be a surprise pregnancy. So we'll see what I feel about that one. And I haven't heard the greatest things about the legacy, but I do want to read this so I can continue on with her next gen series that I also have a feeling are going to show up, or is going to show up in the Goodreads Choice Award. So I do want to finish this series and continue on with the spin-off and the next gen series. So yeah, and like I said, it's only 2 books and the legacy is not that long. So hopefully I can accomplish that. Same goes for the Nashville Neighborhood series. So once again, the book I read for that series last year was one of my favorite books I read last year. And it's an easy series to read. It's very spicy. I fly through them. It's Nikki Sloan, who I already said. I really like her writing style. So hopefully I can finish this series. I still need to read the 2nd book, the 3rd book, and the 5th book. And I know there's a 6th book coming out next year, so I really want to be caught up before the 6th book comes out. The Architect is going to be the next book I'm going to be reading, so at least I'm making progress, and then after that I only need to read 2. So we'll see. And then the last series I really want to finish is the Green Creek series by TJ Klune. So I still need to read Heart Song, which is the 3rd book, and Brother Song, which is the 4th one. Oh no, wait. Yeah. So Wolf Song is one of my favorite books of all time. I love that book so much. And I really loved Raven Song too. Yeah, like I already said, TJ Klune is one of my favorite authors. I really love this series, and I think fall time is the best time to read them. So the problem is though, they are heartbreaking and long. So I do need to, while I'm reading them, I'm loving them, but just starting them is a giant task for me because I know heartbreak will await me. So yeah, but I do want to finally finish this series. And the last category are anticipated releases for basically for October and November. So these I want to make a priority. I really want to read them as soon as they come out, so because I want to keep up with these new releases for the end of the year. So the first one is The Wedding Witch by Aaron Sterling. The first book is one of my favorite books of all time. The second book I didn't really love so much, but this will finish off a series, which is just an easy win for me. Yeah, this is a very cozy, witchy series that, like I said, I really love. Next is The Striker, obviously by Anna Huang. This I've been anticipating for a while now because it involves a football player or soccer player for the Americans watching. It's about Asher Donovan. She's been mentioning him throughout both of her series, and I'm just interested to see how she's going to tackle a sports romance. So I'm very excited about that one. And Dinner for Vampires, I'm very interested in. This is a nonfiction memoir by Bethany Joy Lenz, who played Haley in One Tree Hill. And One Tree Hill is one of my favorite TV shows of all time. And apparently she was in a cult while filming the show, which is so intriguing for me. So I'm going to be listening to the audiobook for that book. And I'm very interested and very excited to read it. So those 3 come out in October, and then for November, obviously The Songbird and the Heart of Stone comes out, which I already talked about, is the 3rd book in the, what is this series called? Nyaxia series. So I definitely, like I said, need to read The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King before getting to A Songbird and the Heart of Stone. Although this series is, I believe it's going to be a trilogy of duologies, similar to the Bridge Kingdom series. So The Serpent and the Wings of Night and The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King is a duology about one couple, and then The Songbird and the Heart of Stone starts the duology for a second couple, who I believe One of them we've already met in Serpent in the Wings of Night. So I definitely want to read this. And then another one I believe this is my most anticipated new release because it's The Courting of Bristol Keats by Mary E. Pearson. Mary E. Pearson, I read the Remnant Chronicles by her, and that trilogy is still one of my favorite trilogies of all time. In fact, the plan was to reread all of them this year. I reread the first two. I still need to reread the third one. But she hasn't published anything in years. So when I saw that she was releasing like a new book this year, I jumped at the chance. And this is an adult, like a fantasy romance, an adult fantasy romance. I'm very, very excited about it. Like I said, the Remnant Chronicles is still one of my favorite trilogies. And I'm just very interested to see what she's going to do next. So this is the start of a new series. And I am going to be reading this book as soon as it's in my hands. I already pre-ordered a copy and I'm just so very excited about it. So those were the 30 books that I'm very excited about and I am prioritizing for the end of the year. Definitely let me know in the comments below what is on your end of the year TBR, and especially if there's a new release that you're very much anticipating for the end of the year, let me know. Dante was very sweet. He's just been like walking around a little bit, but mostly been sleeping, so good boy. Yeah, leave all your thoughts in the comments below, and I really hope you enjoyed this video. Definitely let me know by leaving a like if you did, and while you're down there, leave me a dog emoji. And thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.